So thank you for coming. It means so much to me to be able to do this and to know that there's a community eager to hear and to have these conversations that are kind of difficult. And I'm so blessed to have people to call on like Karla. Karla was featured recently in a in the Times columnist, and I saw that article and I went, "Whoa, that's something we need to talk about." You've probably already got that link, but I'll put it in the chat in a second as well. All right. So that's where I started with this idea. Read her great article and thought, yeah, let's see if people are interested in this. And so be it, people are interested in this. Um, I would like to begin with a standard and very, very important acknowledgement. And that acknowledgement is that I am here on the traditional and unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples. That includes the Musqueam and the Tsleil-Waututh and the Squamish peoples. And they have stewarded this land since time immemorial. And I am so grateful, especially in this time of turmoil and difficulty and global unrest. I am so grateful to have been welcomed, to have been so graciously treated as an uninvited guest on this territory. I am sitting here in East Vancouver. Karla, where are you, my friend?
I am in Victoria, BC, on the ancestral lands of the Lekwungen speaking people, the Songhees and Esquimalt nations. And I am so very grateful to be here where it is peaceful and beautiful.
Me too. If you know your ancestral lands, go ahead and put them in the chat. If that's new for you, I can give you a link to figure it out later, and you can also tell me what these places are known by now too. And if you put that in the chat, that would be super great because then later, when you want to ask questions, we'll know that you know where the chat is. So go ahead and tell us where you're coming in from. Um, I would. We're going to be here just for an hour. It's going to go by pretty quick. We are recording. And Karla has a bit of a formal presentation, formal in quotes, a bit of a few things to say that are a bit more structured. And then we're going to move to some sort of an interview style. And then there's going to be time for you to ask questions as well. And and all of us, every single one of us, have been to free webinars that are actually pitches for something else. And I absolutely promise you that this is not that. But at the very end of our time together, I'm going to show you just one single slide of a end of life planning course that I'm putting together with my dear colleague Megan Sheldon from Be Ceremonial. I find that people in communities like this are people who are eager to talk about these things. And Megan and I have created a really special 4-week virtual retreat, we're calling it. It's an end of life retreat, a holistic advanced care planning retreat. It's unlike anything that you've ever experienced before. And if you are an emerging doula, if you're somebody who gets all lit up talking about this kind of stuff, if you're somebody who really enjoys talking about death at dinner parties, and I suspect some of you are like that, then you might really like this. So I've got one slide at the very end. It's price in Canadian dollars for Canadians. It's got a sliding scale tuition, and it's going to be a very, very special time. So those of you who don't know me, I'm Christa Ovenell. My company is called Death's Apprentice Education and Planning. I am, like Karla, I am a licensed funeral director and an embalmer. Karla and I are actually two of only a very few in all of North America who are both licensed funeral director, embalmers, and doulas, end of life doulas. And I work a lot with people who are interested in holistic advanced care planning. I do a lot of teaching in a lot of different settings, and I also work with forward-thinking organizations. I have had time to reflect on this, and I genuinely believe that planning for the inevitable super important. But you know what a lot of people overlook is planning for the unexpected. This the unknown, the stuff that might happen. And I got to tell you, there's a really big return on investment in doing that. So that's why I get all excited about this kind of stuff. My beautiful friend Carla, Carla and I finally met in person just the other day, like a month ago. And we've been friends for 5 years, maybe six. She is a licensed funeral director and embalmer, just like me. She has, unlike me, who only has about 6 or 7 years experience, she has 16 years experience of guiding families through like the death of people they love, the grief that can attend with that. She's the founder of a really cool company over on Vancouver Island called Empowered End of Life, the Empowered Estate in partnership with another colleague of hers. And she really, like me, she has a very like common sense blend of like practical knowledge, but really centering kind of humanness and kindness. She's incredibly warm. She's very funny. I know that she's nervous as heck right now, and those beeps that I've accidentally enabled are probably really stressing her out. So that don't worry, Carla, they'll stop soon. But I just really would love you to all join me in welcoming Carla in whatever way looks right for you. But thank you, Carla. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are on a bit of a mission. Um, as funeral directors, frankly, and as death educators, we have worked together with thousands, like when you count us together, with for thousands of families over the years. And it is so rare for either of us. I think we can probably count on one hand the number of people who actually know what happens when you die. I'm talking like the literal, the real actual stuff that needs to happen when you die, not the metaphysical, none of that. And this lack of knowledge can really lead to decisions being made quickly. And sometimes those fast decisions can bring regret later. And we are not here to judge. But we want to make sure that folks kind of understand the impact of prioritizing convenience or sometimes cost, honestly, over connection and ceremony. And so we're going to spend probably the next 45 minutes and we're just going to look at what's changing in death care and what we might be losing along the way because of these changes. So before I turn it over, Carla, for you, I just want to say, friends, if you have clarifying questions like Carla used an acronym and you don't know what that is or something, please pop them in the chat or even unmute and just say, Carla, I didn't understand that. But there will be Q&A at the end. You're also welcome to park questions in the chat too, and we'll try and get to them towards the end. But I'm not going to go back and forth until the Q&A. Does that sound okay? You ready? All right. All right, Carla, show us your screen, my friend.
No, you don't get to see my screen just yet.
Oh no, okay.
I'm just going to talk and try to be as personable as possible. I do have some slides, but they come in a little bit later. Because really, what I want to lay the groundwork, set the scene, is around this across Canada, many families moving away from ceremony and why that is. So I've come up with a few reasons. I certainly think that it's because as a culture, we are becoming less religious and more secular. Why is that relevant? Because religion gives us a framework. It gives us a blueprint of what to do when someone dies. When we don't have that framework, we're looking to maybe what we've seen or what we think. And honestly, when we're grieving, when we're in deep grief, now that's not the time to be thinking of new ideas and creative ways to honor someone.
It really is
I
not.
think another reason is people being skeptical of the funeral industry. I think the lack of transparency, the possible sales pressure at a vulnerable time, embalming, basically death being sanitized and handed over to professionals. And that's been happening for several generations now as a normal thing. So we just don't have that cultural knowledge anymore of how to care for our own. Maybe also we've witnessed something we don't like. We've seen funerals that don't resonate and that We know we don't want that, but we don't really have like an example of what we do want. So that would be another reason, why the alternative by default would be a direct cremation with no service. I just remembered one other thing that falls into the seeing what you don't want is a bad funeral. Have you ever been to a bad funeral where the minister or the person in charge clearly didn't know the person?
Yep.
And
Can't
then
pronounce
like
their name, gets
can't
their
pronounce
gender wrong. Like, yeah.
totally. And then even more common than that, everyone's talking about the person like they were a total saint,
Oh, yeah.
and everyone in the room knows they were not. So I think all of those reasons kind of lead to choosing to do nothing because we don't know what else to do. Cremation is fast,
Yeah.
it's affordable, and it's efficient. And those are some of the top priorities we have in today's society. We are in an Amazon and Temu culture. We expect everything fast, and slowing down is increasingly hard to do. I think sometimes it feels a bit indulgent, even when it really is necessary. So, this trend was a shock to me when I returned home to Victoria in 2012. So, just a little bit about me. I felt called to death care at a young age. I experienced the death of a girl my age when I was 14, and her death had a profound impact on me. It was the first time that I kind of started having questions about death, but really just like mainly the logistics. Where is her body now? What happens? Um, at 17, I apprenticed at a funeral home here in Victoria, and I observed a lot of traditional funeral services. I really got to know the general order of service. I moved to Alberta in 2005 and apprenticed at a funeral home in a small town. It was an excellent way to learn because I saw everything. We did everything from picking up the body at the place of death to meeting with the family to organizing the funeral itself, the visitation, the embalming, the funeral lunch afterwards, which we were expected to go to because as members of the community, the funeral home, it had been in the community for over 100 years and they were like pillars of the community. We were expected to be in fellowship with the community afterwards. Um, the reason why I bring that up is because the first 7 years of my career were steeped in tradition. There's
Mm,
just a way you do things. In Camrose, where I learned, everyone had a funeral. A small funeral was 100 people,
yeah.
but routinely they were like 300 plus. And they were well trained. Prairie people, I think, are well trained on how to do a funeral. There is a lot more religion, so again, that plays into it. But there's a blueprint of what to do. And being in a smaller community, people show up. They show up for each other. And when I returned to Victoria in 2012, it was a bit of culture shock, to be honest, to see the lack of ceremony, recognition, and frankly, like reverence for the dead.
Mhm.
People phone to price shop.
Yep.
Who offers the cheapest cremation?
Huh.
Cremated remains are handed back in a cardboard box. And I get this, and I'm really not judgmental of the economy factor.
Yeah.
Dying can be expensive, and especially in today's world, most people do not have an extra couple $1,000s lying around. What does cause me concern is the lack of, again, reverence and even ceremony,
Mhm.
because those things have very little to do with money.
Yeah.
It has everything to do with how we've been shown to meet death. Okay, now I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
So
We practiced this, so I
we
believe in
did
you.
practice it. We did practice it. Um, I just need to go back to Zoom and share.
By the way, everyone, I'm going to pop Carla's great article in the chat on the off chance that you haven't seen it yet.
Okay, everyone can see. We're good.
Everyone can see.
Can you still see my face or is it it's full
Yeah,
screen?
now you're up
Oh,
top.
okay. So a funeral is a rite of passage. It's not an ending, but a process to move into a new beginning. For the person who's died, it marks the end of their life and, depending on belief, a hope for what's next. For the family, relationships change. So a spouse becomes a widow.
Mhm.
Children, no matter the age, become fatherless or motherless. Chosen family are left with a hole as well. The purpose then of the funeral, of a good funeral, is that it brings people together like a basket woven around the grievers. Alan Wolfelt, who's a death educator, talks about a funeral having an actual purpose. So, to acknowledge the reality of the death, to recall and honor the person by sharing memories, to support the family by giving people the opportunity to show up and hold space, to witness grief by creating space to express it,
Mhm.
meaning offering something that is beyond us, be that through music, spiritual hope, written word, ritual, something tangible. And to transcend, everyone leaves that space a bit different than how they entered it, with some acknowledging of a new identity. And hopefully, maybe there was some catharsis as well. And finally, community. So, Stephen Jenkinson and Sarah Kerr, both Canadian death educators, speak about a good funeral
Sorry.
weaving community together. It is a community building event. So, the intentional and practical gathering is a container for grief to move. When we avoid it, we don't get to skip grief. It gets pushed down, and in our busy lives, we just patch it up and keep going. Here's
Mhm.
another reason why we skip funerals: the expectation on the family to plan and provide for it. In tight knit communities, everyone brings food. The church ladies make egg salad sandwiches. Ideally, the immediate family doesn't have to do anything except grieve. Now, I see families who feel an obligation to organize and even pay for catering, uh, which all can become costly and really exhausting. Many people don't know and haven't seen a different way to do this. So the alternative is to do nothing. And so that leads me to my next point. I think we need two services. I think we need the first one in that first week following death. It involves the final committal of the body, be it into the ground or at the crematorium. And this is solemn. It's not a celebration. This is a place for tears, reverence, to acknowledge the death, to express and witness grief. We say goodbye to the person's body and acknowledge our new identity, a chance for our nervous system to catch up with what has happened without the expectation to host others and be overwhelmed by people. And the second, well, for some reason that slide doesn't want to advance. There we go.
Oh, there you go.
And the second is can be weeks to months later. This is the celebration of life. Now is the time to honor the person through stories and pictures, be able to show up and hold space for the family and receive support, to listen to music and intentionally search for meaning and connection. It can be casual or it can be elaborate, something that really fits that person. Everyone there walks out a different version of themselves by virtue of intentionally acknowledging that life is over, that a life is over. So, unprocessed grief can have an effect not only on our nervous systems, but also on the next generation. How will our kids acknowledge and process the deaths they will experience in their lifetime? One of the many lessons this career has taught me is that meeting death, it gives us an opportunity to teach our children at any age how to approach death with grace and connection and intention. Okay. So these days, I talk with a lot of families and individuals who want to prepay for their cremation ahead of time. I always ask what they want to happen with their cremated remains.
Hmm.
And the reason I do this is to encourage them to give direction to their family. A surprising amount of people still have ashes in their closet.
Do you know, may I just interrupt? It is actually the largest cemetery in North America, is literally in people's homes.
It always shocks. It doesn't shock me. I'm so used to it now, but I just find it so um I always get, I want to say ironic, but half the time I'm using it wrong. But I think it's ironic in that we're planning this person's cremation and they still have the cremated remains of loved ones, whether it's a spouse or parents or siblings or pets, many, many pets sitting in their closet. So that's something I really like to intentionally bring up is what would you like to happen with your cremated remains? I think that it's one of the biggest gifts you can give your family is a bit of direction of what to do. Because again, when their head is clouded with grief, is not the time to be trying to think of what to do. So these are all we've talked about some tangible ways to meet death with intention and really give direction for your loved ones. And and I'm so pleased. I'm so excited. I feel like I've just kind of created my dream position now, being able to be with. Oh, you know what I did?
What did you do?
I was going to show one more slide.
Do it. You're still
This is
up. So
this
yeah.
is about cremation. So there's a few things wrong with this picture. I do not recommend that you throw cremated remains into the air like this. Just the slightest breeze, and that's going to go badly. But what you alternatively just closer to the water is good, just closer to the water. But while there are, a couple things wrong with this picture, I'll tell you what's not a mistake, and that is the fact that she's doing something. She's returning those ashes back to the elements, back to the water there.
Yeah.
So I'll
Yeah.
stop share and
Lovely.
simply say this. I feel like after so many years of meeting families at need, meaning immediately following a death, and seeing so many deer in headlights looks. We don't plan a whole lot of funerals, hopefully, in our lifetime, but we're not practiced at it. And without that blueprint of what to do, and largely without community, we're at the whim of wherever you kind of end up. And ultimately, what it is turning into is a lot of direct cremation with no service. And that's what Krista and I are here to talk about, challenge, and provide hopefully some different creative ideas of things to consider. I Yeah, I'd like to turn it back over to Krista.
Thank you. Carla, choir sermon. Obviously, you and I can kind of riff on this for a long time, but what I want to do is I want to just make a couple of quick like definitions and backgrounders for folks. When you're going to hear Carla and I say direct cremation or direct cremation no service, what this means is phoning a funeral home and saying, "Hi, I would like a cremation right away, please." And what happens is the body is picked up from where the death occurs. And in a truly direct cremation, what this means is that the body is picked up, it is taken to a safe sheltering space, almost always in the funeral home. A whole bunch of paperwork is filed. There is a meeting either over the phone, on Zoom, or in person with the funeral director just to get a bunch of paperwork signed and whatnot. That body will go directly, hence the direct cremation, in the state that it is in. Whatever state that body is in, that body is going directly to the crematorium. There is no one whose job it is to go in and bathe or tend that body in any way, with the exception of checking for a pacemaker. Truly, the changes that occur right after a death are often very quick, and they can sometimes be somewhat messy. And I gotta tell you, even if nobody is ever going to see you again, even if you don't want a viewing, even if you don't want a big party with your body present, some of you might, but even if you don't want that, there is something to me very lovely about actually knowing that either people I love or people who are being paid to respectfully tend my body will respectfully tend my body. To me, that's very important. In a direct cremation, you don't get that at all. You go in whatever form that you showed up in. I have to tell you, that if I show up in one of those really ugly yellow, like hospital gowns and you let me go that way, like, oh, you think my shoes are a problem? We are going to have a problem there, my friends. So a direct cremation is truly that. It is in BC, we do have a waiting period. It can't be within 48 hours. But it is directly from place of death, minor parking for a little while, and then straight off to the cremation. Nothing else happens. There is nothing inherently wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But when people don't know what is missing, when they learn what is missing, often they're like, oh, I had no idea. I've heard the number of times that I've heard people say things like, oh, I just thought the funeral director dressed him. Well, in what clothes? Right? Like, do we just have like a Macy's or something that we can just go show, oh, he'd look great in this blue shirt? No, right? If you have called 1-800, might not get the ashes back, then they are going to pick that person up, take them away, and in whatever state they are in, they're going to cremate them. And then a week or 2 weeks later, you're going to get a cardboard box back. So that's direct cremation, right? Cremation, this is so important for me that people understand. Cremation is nothing other than a form of disposition. Disposition means a legal way of tending a dead human body. Here in British Columbia, where we live, there are currently only two ways to do this: burial or flame-based cremation. But I noticed that we've got folks from other places here, and in some places, you might have access to alkaline hydrolysis or water cremation, or you might have natural organic reduction or human composting. Whatever you choose for the disposition, that's just disposition. You can still make choices around ceremony, regardless of what method of disposition you choose. You can still do what Karla has said is so important, and I too, we were again on the exact same song sheet there. You can have a gathering, family only or chosen family only, most intimate people at the time of disposition or immediately before. You can tend the body in whatever way you wish or not. You can have somebody else do that. You can have a service with a body present or not. You can have a service, but you can do this whether you're burying someone or whether you're cremating them. And I want to just before sort of end rant, I want to just say, Karla, that you said this really interesting thing that people call you and ask to prepay their cremation. And even 10 years ago, that phrasing would have been different. Even 10 years ago, it would have been, I want to prearrange my funeral. And now, especially here in British Columbia, what we hear more often than not is, I want to pay for my cremation. Good. I can't say enough how great that is. Yes, do that. But if you do that, work with somebody like Karla, like myself, like other forward-thinking funeral directors who are going to help you consider the aspects that aren't disposition. Because my goodness, there's so many things to think about. So, and I'm gonna ask you a question in a second, Karla, but I want to just say that I really think that one of the things that has happened again in the last sort of number of years is that as there are fewer and fewer independent funeral homes, um, or small family funeral homes, even in small towns, even in funeral homes that still bear the names of the people who actually founded them. They're not independent anymore. And there's been this corporatization of funeral care that has one bottom line in mind. And you can guess what bottom line that is. That's the financial bottom line, right? Death caring professionals, be they funeral directors or funeral director doulas or home funeral guides or other death caring professionals who are not sort of slaves to that corporate structure can actually have a bunch of bottom lines at play. And one of the most important bottom lines is the grieving and the reforming and reconnecting and re-establishing life after loss. That's what funerals do. And funerals don't have to look like funerals. So that's my question to you, Karla. Do you have any examples of things you've seen that were kind of outside the box, as it were? Or have you ever imagined something for yourself that is still going to be a direct cremation, but with something else?
Yeah, I mean, the first one that comes to mind would be the like polar opposite of the majority of what I see. So I had one family, and this isn't for everybody, but I had one family who the woman died at home. She was at her sister's home. Her sister had caregive for her. Um, and that family, after she died, they bathed her body, and all that meant really was they took a cloth and with some lavender essential oil, and they blessed every part of her, head to toe. This woman died of cancer, a horrible death, painful, miserable. So for them to see her body in the absence of pain, to be able to touch her was so healing for them. They blessed her body. They just spent some time. Honestly, she was just we had kind of tended to her body, and then the sister said, "Anyone want a cup of tea?" We sat at the table, had a cup of tea. There was even some laughter. It was very casual. And meanwhile, the lady's just lying there, dead. And I think on a primal level, like on a physiological level, to sit with a corpse, it just you have to accept that the person is dead, and that's something that's really there's a big disconnect when we don't even get to see the person's body dead.
When it's literally come and get my person, you know, or the death has occurred somewhere else. And so you're not even making that phone call saying, come and get that person from my hospital bed or hospice bed or home bed. That body is already somewhere else and you're just like, deal with it, right? That disconnect is huge. You reference Adam Wolfelt. For all of you non-funeral directors, we all have like us funeral directors, we have like textbooks upon textbooks from this guy on our shelves. But he is one of the most beautiful, reverential, down to earth death educators that talks very much about sort of what a good funeral is and how important a funeral is, um, not from a financial bottom line perspective. I have also been in attendance with people who have done, very reverential acts for their person right at the time. But I've also served people either as a celebrant or like adjacent to an event planner who are literally doing things like on, let's talk about not for everybody, on pirate ships in English Bay, with pinball machines and full size cutouts for photo ops and a photo booth and things like that. And you know what? That is you couldn't walk into that party and think to yourself, "Oh, this is a funeral." You absolutely wouldn't. But you know what makes a funeral? Somebody having died. That's what makes a funeral. And that is like the only qualification. It can be a memorial service with a with ashes present. It could be a full body present, which is our typical definition of funeral, or it could be a couple of pictures or a wall of pictures of the person. But what makes it a funeral is the fact that somebody has died and you are coming together to honor that person. And we can do this in like low budget ways. We can do this in community driven ways. And we can do this by getting together at the pub. A dear friend of mine lost his mom unexpectedly, but after a long illness. Those two things do work in the same sentence, actually, as sort of different as that sounds. Um, and and he sort of apologetically said to me, "Oh, we're just getting together at the pub, and we've rented it for 3 hours, and we're just, it's kind of an open house. People are gonna drop in and tell some stories." And he was kind of shuffling, like he was sort of like as if this was somehow not good enough. And I was like, no, 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 is that what you want? Is that what you think she would have wanted? Then that is the perfect funeral. Does that resonate for you? Yeah, yeah. So, Carla, tell me too, if you wouldn't mind, um, when people in that article that you had in the skipping the grief article, one of the things that really struck me was that um, people people think that the convenience factor is a positive, I guess, right? What's your take on having it be so speedy and so don't even have to meet with people anymore kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, there's funeral homes now. I don't have to even meet with somebody. It's online only, which it, it serves a purpose. It serves a purpose, but I worry about just, I guess, that slow down factor. Like it's so hard to slow down, but I think this is a time when we really do need to slow down because we need that time to integrate and to process and to just be able to take on like the be able to move through the shock and denial into, okay, this is what's happened and this is how we're going to move forward. um, so I think the danger is some unprocessed grief, and then of course that's not going to just disappear. Like you can bury that down, patch it up, keep moving, but there when the next death happens,
Hmm.
it's kind of a double down effect. I think too, like we're so grief illiterate as a society. We don't know how to show up for each other. So I don't know if anybody's felt that pressure after losing someone where um, I had said I was meeting with a grief counselor last week, and I said, "Oh, yeah, no, after a year." And she said, "After a month, sometimes people feel that pressure to be over it, or at least to not talk about it anymore. Like, you're making me uncomfortable." And we don't know how to, and we don't know how to show up for others. And it's not going to get better by like expediting this process.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that we end up doing, or that not that we end up doing, but that ends up occurring, is that there's this sense of unfinishedness,
Yeah.
right? The sense of unfinishedness and the person that is gone, if we didn't take the time to go to the pub or have that event or what have you, then it makes it harder to actually have that conversation and say, no, like I'm not okay, or I need this, or just thank you for being here. If you don't give people a place to come, then they don't know what to do as well. One of the things that we hear all the time, right? Um, it's a sort of a common saying that funerals are for the living. And I completely agree with that, but in ways that we might not think of. Funerals are not for the living to like show off how great their person was. Funerals are for the living to begin to make sense of Adam Wolfelt again, to begin to make sense of life without their person in it. And funerals allow the person who is still alive, who was closest to the person who died, to look around and see, oh, there's this person, there's that person, there's the other person. These people knew him, knew them in that way, in a way that, in a relationship that I didn't have with them, I can speak to them and I can continue to process, right? Um, I will say, Rilke, I want to make sure that we open it up for questions too, but I want to say that I love your idea of the two distinct pieces of service and ceremony, one being immediate and one being at sort of some future point. Um, you know me, Karla, well enough to know that I don't love the phrase celebration of life for a whole bunch of reasons. I want to reclaim funeral. I want to like funeral is the new F word, right? I want us to just get behind funeral. But when we do think of any sort of event, service, celebration, what have you, I want to just be extra sure that we make room in that service or in that ceremony for people who weren't at that first one, who might actually still have their grief carried with them. And one of the reasons that I'm not a huge fan of celebration of life is that sometimes when we frame it that way, people think, oh, I can only come in this sort of like false jolly behavior, with this jolliness. I can't come with my sadness and my grief. So that's like my little take. But when we explicitly make room for all of the emotions that come along with these things, then I don't care what we call it, but let's just do it, right? Yeah. Um, I'm going to just read this. I deeply recall losing close family, and immediately after, um, I look around and see people going about life, and I wanted to scream, my world has just shattered. How can you just go about your day? So the gathering funeral was the time to see the people who understood my loss, talk about them, and share the immense loss, and let me know that the world that and let me know world matters. The close people are right by my side. Yeah, 100%. I totally get that. And for everything that Karla and I have just shared, I want to be very clear too that there's no prescription here. I am not in any way suggesting that you have to go and have some big event and it's going to make you feel better. No, actually nothing's going to make you feel better for a very, very, very long time. But when you formally, if you're the kind of person or if you know somebody who says, just leave me out with the trash or don't make a fuss, the burden that you're placing on the living, on the people left behind, is much greater than you think it is. You actually think that you're making it easier for them when you use language like that, right, Karla? Like we hear that all the time, especially from a certain generation, certain age of people, right? They've been trained into not making a fuss. Um, but I have sat with fully grown adult men who are 60 something years old and their moms have just died. All their life, they heard mom didn't want to fuss, and they're sobbing in front of me because all they want is to have people that they love together, right? And that is such a loss. The
Well,
other
and when
thing, oh
somebody's,
yes,
sorry, Krista, just on that note, when it's somebody that's died, the urgency to, or like the importance to hold those wishes, it's almost like it's so hard to go against that and say, you know what, mom said this, but we're going to go ahead and do it because we know it's for us. It's like this was her dying wish.
yeah,
We can't go against that, you
which
know?
puts such conflict inside them.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, I'm gonna remove our pins, my darling, and I'm gonna ask, there we are. I'm gonna ask people, is there anything that has come up or made you so either go, I really agree, or I have a question, and if so, either raise your hand or unmute and share it. Um, Lisa has said that my mom died in January 2022, 2021. What a dark time. And COVID made it impossible to have a funeral. It was a relief at the time to not have to plan anything, but I wonder if I should still do something. Can I say, Lisa, there is absolutely no like statute of limitations on this. And people often feel, well, it's been X number of years or months or sometimes weeks. While there are sometimes religious or cultural reasons that we need to do certain things within a certain time frame, and I completely accept and appreciate that, when that isn't the case, I want you to know that you can do anything. And there are people like Karla, like me, death engaged community members who will sit with you and talk through things. Be Ceremonial at beceremonial.com has some incredible, beautiful, like lead your, she calls it a choose your own adventure ceremony creation service. And there are ways that you can come to creating something that is meaningful for you and for your mom, and you might be shocked by the closure. One of the most beautiful services I did was a couple of years ago after a couple of years had gone by. Similar circumstances. And in this case, it ended up being a relatively large affair. Not suggesting that's what needs to happen, but that's just the way these things played out. And the woman was so amazed at like how many people came and how much community need there was for that. Yeah. And I'm just going to say too that another example of a service that is a little bit outside the box. My own mother's service was quite traditional in a whole bunch of ways. We even sang Amazing Grace. I mean, come on, that is a top 10, right? And there was an order of service and one of those tacky little things that you print up and like it was very much like it was how my mom would have wanted it. And we did not have church basement sandwiches. We had Steveston pizza, the best pizza. She loved this pizza so much, and it was such a weird thing to have. We also had it, though it was relatively traditional, we had it in a place that wasn't traditional. And so we took a very traditional structure and then we changed it and made it our own. So Mother's body will be cremated on the other side of the Atlantic, ashes to a communal plot, but I would like to invite a small number of friends at home to share feelings. Nothing official. That's a perfect way too, Ray, to get around the I don't want a service. That's okay. We're not having a service. I'm having some friends over. Krista's going to call it a funeral because Krista uses the F word. But Mom, don't worry. It is not a funeral. Um, Could I put the website in the chat? The Bee Ceremonial? I absolutely will. I'll put that in just a moment.
Lauren put
Um,
it in, Krista.
oh, thanks, my love. Judy has said, I know two people who passed in COVID, and the family said they would have a service later, but they never did. And I missed it terribly, and it doesn't feel finished. Yeah, I totally get it. And I feel guilty. I want to invite you to sort of put down that luggage. You can honor them. Something that my friend Megan talks about all the time is how, while it's so good to be in community for ceremony, you can do ceremony solo, and you can craft something thoughtful that will allow you to close that piece. And I would love to see you do something like that. Yeah. I got 7 more minutes, and I am not giving you these minutes back in your day. So you bring a question. Actually, a question that I have for the group is, has has anybody ever, well, on either side of the coin, have you ever seen anything that you really liked? Or have you had experiences of just being like, oh my God, I can't believe this priest doesn't even know their name? Bana says, my grandpa passed in November and was cremated right away. We are looking at the spring 2026 to have a big party as he wanted. Two questions. Are there any recommended resources in planning a celebration of life or a funeral party in regards to the timeline activities, decoration ideas? And are there any planning websites like the Knot is for weddings that is free for people to use and plan an event like this? Thanks in advance. You know what? Beceremonial.com. It is an incredible, rich resource. ChatGPT can be your friend too. You could like if if that doesn't scare you, but you could sort of say, this is the person, these are the things, here's what I'm thinking. Um, and sort of get the ball rolling that way. And I would say, especially given that you've already got the big party in mind, that feel very much that center your person, right? But you can do any kind of party that you want. So some people might be like, oh, Grandpa loved fish and chips, so we're going to do it down at Pajo's in Steveston. And everybody's going to get the free fish and chips, da, 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 da. And then other people might go more like, oh, well, Grandpa was a real reader, and so we're going to take his library and we're going to let everybody who comes take a book on their way home, right? So center your person and think deeply about your person, and it will come. Do you have something to add to that, Carla?
Yeah, I'm putting it in the chat. New Narratives has a wonderful downloadable resource book.
Thank you
I,
for
I
that.
feel like it's like the A to Z of everything you can think of for alternative, or not alternative, like creative funerals.
Yes, I can't believe I forgot New Narrative for a second there. Brenda tells us that she attended a funeral in quotes at Quadra where everyone there got a t-shirt with text on the front, you can take the boy out of Africa, you can't take Africa out of the old boy. It seemed very weird for me, who is not a male and not from Africa. Have you seen this? It seemed really odd. I have absolutely not seen that, but I have seen funerals with merch tables where people lay things out and they're not for sale, but they're like, we want you to take one of these things. It would have been an interesting question to the people at the funeral. Was that the same funeral that you got all lost at, Brenda? Oh boy, that was quite a story, friend. So that's neat though, because in 6 weeks, here's something actually, if you take one thing away from tonight, here, this is a little added bonus. I would like you to do something for me. When you hear of someone's death, whether or not you hear someone that you loved or someone that you're tangentially connected to, whether or not you hear of a service, all right, I want you to put that date in your calendar. And then I want you to count 6 weeks forward. Whether or not there has been a service. If there, whoo, sorry, dropping things. If there has been a service, count 6 weeks forward from the service. If there has not been a service, count 6 weeks forward from the death. Put it in your calendar. Reach out on that day, 6 weeks after the death has occurred or 6 weeks after the service, and say, thinking of you. Say, hi, what's going on for you? Hey, do you want to get a cup of tea? Something like that. 6 weeks is a bit of a magic number, but there's nothing really behind it. It's just that often that is when the hubbub subsides. And that's when all of a sudden, only weeks later, regular folks aren't talking about their person anymore. And life has gone back to normal. And the person who's lost their person might be thinking, I want to scream, right? So this is something, whether a service has occurred or not, that you can do to create community and to connect in to the person who has lost. I'm going to just see if I can. Denica says, I have just thought about direct cremation. You mentioned the body goes to the crematorium in its state. What are the minimal legal requirements? You mentioned a pacemaker. What are the requirements for a casket container? Anything else? Where I am in BC, thank you for phrasing it that way too, Danica. So there must be a rigid-sided container. This can be a cardboard box, but it must be an enclosed, rigid-sided container. Can't be plastic, can't be metal, has to be combustible. It cannot occur within 48 hours, has to be at least 48 hours from point of death to cremation. That's not true for burial. You can bury someone within hours as long as you can get the paperwork in order. And there will be a minimum preparation done, which just ensures that things like a wedding ring shouldn't be coming off, or there's not a pacemaker that might explode inside the retort. That's the very bare minimum. There will be a physical check. Is there money in the pockets? Are there keys? Is there anything that we just could reasonably think shouldn't go to the crematorium? Carla, what am I missing?
Yeah, just wanted to add in this is an excellent opportunity for ceremony. This is a great chance with a cardboard casket container. People can come in and draw on it. Put your notes, paint, whatever. This can be a great thing for kids. You can put anything in the cremation container as long as it's combustible. So write a love note, pictures, snacks. I saw somebody put a joint in there
I
once.
was going to say, I have put so many joints in, not I have, but I've seen it so
Um,
often. BC Bud.
And then I don't know that we're running out of time, so we won't get
Yep.
into this. But I don't know if we mentioned witness cremation, did we? That's another opportunity. That is
That
the
that
commitment.
will be in the follow-up, my love. So Robin has said, I like that we can attend around the world. That was truly one of the best things about, one of the great things about COVID. It changed everything, and a few things it changed for the better. As long as they play lots of Bob Seger, eat foods I loved, there's a bonfire, and everyone can bring their dogs, I'll be happy, and they will feel me with them. We had a young woman in my daughter's age pass away at 21, and all the young women wore red lipstick because she loved red lipstick. You see how small and how simple, but we allowed that. You created that space. You allowed that creativity, and those connections are so important. Screws and pins from surgery are separated out and recycled. So there's a big, huge magnet that goes above before the bones are cremulated, are ground up. So they're separated out. And I love a love note on cremation container. Yeah, that's so beautiful. Uh, how fast is natural burial? This will be the last question before we close off here. How fast does a natural burial have to occur? People really are surprised by this answer. What do you think? 1 day, 3 days, maybe a week? No. Refrigeration is our friend, my friend. And I have done natural burials well past the 4 week mark. I have even done viewings of unembalmed bodies at around the 4 week mark. There are some very natural things that occur that you might want, that a good funeral director will help prepare a family that they may see and whatnot. But there is no huge rush with natural burial. There are, again, some religious reasons and some cultural reasons that a burial may occur very quickly, and obviously that would have to be done that way, but there is no reason that a natural burial has to occur within a very, very tight timeline. It's common, but it's not required. So, I would like to share one thing with you. Here we go. Two things with you, actually. Um, the first is this event, the end of life planning course, with my colleague Megan, who I shared with you about. It is in October for 4 weeks on Saturdays, and it is going to be absolutely incredible. If you are lit up by this kind of stuff, definitely consider joining us. And I would love for you to be able to be in contact with the two of us. You can find me at hello@deathsapprentice.ca and Carla at connect@carlakerr.ca. At at any time. We will, you're stuck with us now. We will answer your questions and any questions that you didn't get to ask at pretty much 3 o'clock in the morning. We'll wake up and we'll roll over. We'll be like, oh, they were at our event. We'll do that for you. I am so grateful that you came today. I really want to encourage you to keep this conversation going. Like, be that person who talks about this stuff at the dinner party. Plan ahead, talk with your family, and remember that ritual is an act of care. It is an act of self-care. It is an